It is 3 a.m. in a small police station in the Antioquia department. The station is quiet, save for the hum of an electric fan and the drumming of the rain. The commander, a man named Captain Rivera, stares at the phone. He knows who is calling. He doesn't want to answer, but he knows that not answering is a decision with consequences. He picks up the receiver. The voice on the other end is calm. It is polite. It sounds like a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. "Captain," the voice says, "I understand you seized a truck on the mountain road an hour ago, a truck carrying some agricultural supplies." The captain's heart hammers against his ribs. He did seize a truck. It was full of coca paste. He thought he was doing his job. He thought he was upholding the law. "Yes," the captain stammers, "it is in the impound." "That is unfortunate," the voice says. "Captain, do you love your wife, Maria? Do you love your daughter, Sophia, who walks to the San Jose school every morning at 7:30? The blood drains from the captain's face. The station, with its concrete walls and iron bars, suddenly feels very fragile. He realizes that the walls are not there to keep the criminals out. They are there to keep him in. "Release the truck," the voice says, "and there will be a gift for you. Keep the truck, and there will be a funeral." The line goes dead. The captain stands there in the silence. He looks at his badge on the desk. It is a piece of metal. It represents the authority of the Republic of Colombia. But in this valley, on this night, that metal is worthless. He walks to the holding cell. He unlocks the gate. He orders his men to release the truck. As the taillights disappear into the rainy night, the captain realizes a terrifying truth. He is not a police officer anymore. He is an employee. He has just become a subject in the kingdom of Pablo Escobar. If you're watching right now, comment where and what time you're watching. Somewhere in the world, someone else is listening to this story too, right alongside you. We are entering the moment a city lost its soul to a single man. To understand how one man could bring a sovereign nation to its knees, we have to understand the landscape he conquered. Medellin in the late 1970s was a city cut in half. In the valley, there was wealth. There were country clubs, textile factories, and red brick mansions. It was known as the City of Eternal Spring. It was industrial, proud, and religious. But look up. Look at the hillsides. Clinging to the mountains were the comunas, shanty towns built of cardboard, tin, and scrap wood. There was no running water. There was no electricity. There were no schools. The people living there were invisible. They were the maids who cleaned the mansions, the laborers who built the factories. But when they went home at night, they went home to darkness. The government didn't go up there. The police didn't go up there. To the state, the slums were a cancer to be ignored. Psychologically, this created a vacuum, a massive, gaping hole of need. And nature abhors a vacuum. Into this darkness stepped a man who didn't look like a politician. He looked like them. He was short, slightly overweight, with a thick mustache and a quiet demeanor. He wore jeans and sneakers. Pablo Escobar didn't come with promises. He came with light bulbs. He started small. He built soccer fields. He paid for medical bills. He handed out cash to widows. But then he did something that changed the psychology of the city forever. He launched a project called Medellin Without Slums. Imagine living in a garbage dump, literally living on top of the city's waste. Your children play in the trash. The smell is unbearable. You have resigned yourself to the fact that you will die there, forgotten. Then a man arrives. He bulldozes the trash. He builds a neighborhood, real houses, with brick walls, with toilets, with roofs that don't leak. He gives you the keys. He doesn't ask for a mortgage. He doesn't ask for a rent. He just smiles and says, "Welcome home." In that moment, who is the president of Colombia to you? The president is a man in a suit in Bogotá who doesn't know your name. Pablo is the man who gave you a roof. This wasn't charity, it was a purchase. He was buying the most valuable commodity in the world, absolute, fanatical loyalty. He was building a human shield. By the early 1980s, the kingdom was taking shape. The barrio he built, named Barrio Pablo Escobar by the people, even though the government refused to recognize it, became a sovereign state within the city. The police could not enter. If a squad car drove near the entrance, children would whistle. Then teenagers would appear. Then guns would appear. The police learned to stay away. But Pablo's ambition wasn't limited to the slums. He wanted the elites to bow to him too. He began to infiltrate society. He bought newspapers. He bought radio stations. He bought the silence of judges. This is where the concept of plata o plomo, silver or lead, truly began. It wasn't just a threat, it was a psychological dismantling of the social contract. In a normal society, you obey the law because you believe in the system or because you fear the consequences of breaking it. Pablo flipped the script. If you obeyed the law, if you were an honest judge or an honest cop, you were punished, you were killed. If you broke the law, if you took the bribe, you became rich. He inverted the moral universe of Medellin. Corruption became a survival strategy. Honesty became a suicide mission. Think about the mental toll that takes on a population. When you see the honest man dead in the street and the corrupt man driving a new Mercedes, what lesson do you teach your children? You teach them that the bad guy is actually the smart guy. Pablo became the godfather of the city. He settled disputes. If someone stole your car, you didn't call the police, you called Pablo's people. They would find the thief, punish him, and return the car. He provided order. It was a brutal, medieval kind of order, but it was order. And for a city that had been chaotic and unequal for so long, that order felt like safety. But there was a dark price to pay for this protection. The city was no longer free. Everyone was watching everyone else. The taxi driver was listening to your conversation. The waiter was watching who you met with. The doorman was noting what time you came home. They were all on the payroll. They were all eyes and ears for the king. Pablo sat in his hacienda miles away, but he knew everything. He knew which politician was having an affair. He knew which general was gambling too much. He collected secrets like he collected exotic animals, and he used those secrets to tighten the noose. As his power peaked, the king began to believe his own myth. He wasn't satisfied being the shadow ruler. He wanted the crown. He wanted to be loved not just as a benefactor, but as a leader. He started holding political rallies. He spoke about revolution. He spoke about the oligarchy. He sounded like a man of the people. But behind the speeches, the machinery of death was growing. He began importing professional hitmen. He began setting up training camps in the jungle. He wasn't just running a business anymore. He was building an army. And the scary part? The people cheered. They didn't see a drug lord arming himself against the state. They saw a hero preparing to defend them. He had successfully brainwashed a significant portion of the city into believing that his survival was their survival. If Pablo falls, the whisper went through the slums, they will come for our houses. They will take everything back. He tied his fate to theirs. It was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. But the state was waking up. The United States was waking up. The DEA was watching the money flows. The satellite photos were showing the airstrips in the jungle. The collision was inevitable. But Pablo wasn't afraid. Why would he be? He owned the police, he owned the courts, he owned the streets. He sat in his mansion, surrounded by his hippos and his birds, and he felt untouchable. But there is a flaw in every kingdom built on fear. Fear is exhausting. Fear breeds resentment in the shadows. And while the Captain Rivera at the police station took the money and released the truck, he didn't forget the humiliation. He didn't forget the threat to his daughter. He took the cash, but he kept his hatred. And hatred, if you let it sit long enough, turns into courage. The cracks in the kingdom were already there. They were just covered in gold leaf. As the sun sets on part one, we leave Medellin in a state of deceptive peace. The trucks are moving, the money is flowing, the people are cheering. But the storm clouds are gathering over the Andes. The king thinks he has bought everyone. He is about to find out that some things and some people are not for sale. The year is 1982. The king has left his castle. Pablo Escobar walks into the halls of the Colombian Congress. He is no longer just a businessman from Medellin. He is an elected official, an alternate representative for the Liberal Party. He has achieved the impossible. He has washed his money clean. He sits there, surrounded by the elite families of Bogotá, the same families who look down on his mother, the same families who have run the country for centuries. He believes he has finally forced them to accept him. He dreams of the presidency. He isn't joking. In his mind, the path is clear. He has the money. He has the people. Now he has the platform. But there is a rule in the world of old power. You can buy a suit, but you cannot buy a pedigree. The elites stare at him. They whisper. They know who he is. They know where the money comes from. To them, he is a stain on the carpet. And one man decides to speak up. Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, the Minister of Justice. He is the antithesis of Pablo. He is rigid, he is moral, and most dangerously, he is not afraid. In a blistering session of Congress, Lara Bonilla breaks the silence. He points the finger directly at the man in the back row. He says the words that no one else dares to whisper. Drug trafficker, murderer. He exposes the connection between Pablo's charity and the cocaine trade. He drags the Robin Hood myth into the harsh light of the law. The room goes silent. Psychologically, this is the moment that breaks Pablo Escobar. This is the narcissistic injury, the public humiliation. He stands up to defend himself, but he fumbles. He is not a debater. He is a dictator. In the streets, he solves problems with a gun. Here, he has to use words, and he is losing. The newspapers pick up the story. The editor of El Espectador, Guillermo Cano, begins digging into Pablo's past. They find an old mugshot from a minor arrest years ago. They publish it. The mask is ripped off. Within weeks, Pablo is expelled from Congress. His diplomatic visa to the United States is revoked. The political career is over before it began. He retreats to Medellin. But he doesn't retreat in shame. He retreats in a rage that will consume the entire nation. He sits in his hacienda, watching the news. He realizes that the silver didn't work. The bribes didn't work. The charity didn't work. If they won't love him, he decides, they will fear him. If you're still listening, you are watching the turning point, the moment the politician dies and the terrorist is born. Subscribe and stay with the story. April 30th, 1984. Rodrigo Lara Bonilla knows he is a dead man walking. He has received the threats. He wears a bulletproof vest. He travels with bodyguards. He is being transferred to a diplomatic post in Czechoslovakia to save his life. He just has to survive a few more days. He's in the back of his car. He's tired. He looks out the window at the dark streets of the capital. The motorcycle pulls up. A Yamaha Calamatic 175. Two young men. One of them raises a Mac-10 submachine gun. A burst of fire shatters the window. 7 bullets strike the minister. He dies instantly. This is the moment the war begins. Before this night, the drug trade was a police problem. After this night, it is a war against the state. The assassination of a minister of justice is a declaration of war. It is Pablo saying, "I am more powerful than your government." But he miscalculated. He thought the government would back down. Instead, they woke up. President Belisario Betancourt, who had been hesitant to fight the cartels, appears on television. He is weeping, but his voice is steel. He signs the one piece of paper that Pablo Escobar fears more than death itself, the extradition treaty. Better a grave in Colombia than a jail cell in the United States. This becomes the mantra of the cartel. This becomes the slogan of the extraditables. Why was he so afraid of a U.S. prison? In Colombia, he can buy the warden. He can run his business from his cell. He can see his family. In the United States, he is just a number. He is inmate 45933. He is isolated. He is nobody. And for a narcissist like Pablo, being nobody is a fate worse than death. So the strategy shifts. He is no longer trying to be president. He is trying to survive. He moves his family from safe house to safe house. He starts sleeping during the day and working at night. The paranoia begins to set in. He looks at his lieutenants. Are they talking to the DEA? He looks at the politicians he bribed. Will they stay bought? He realizes that to stop extradition, he has to bring the government to its knees. He has to make the cost of fighting him so high that they will beg for peace. He unleashes a campaign of terror that the world has never seen. He puts a bounty on police officers. He orders the death of judges. He targets journalists. The magic of Medellin, the charity, the soccer fields, is replaced by the smell of dynamite. The people of the slums still protect him, but the mood is changing. They are no longer just grateful. They are terrified. They are human shields, whether they want to be or not. And in the middle of this chaos, Pablo makes a decision that shows just how far he has fallen from reality. He attacks the symbol of justice itself. November 1985, the M19 guerrillas storm the Palace of Justice. They take the Supreme Court hostage. They demand the destruction of the files on extradition. It is a siege of fire and blood. The military attacks. The building burns. Over 100 people die, including 11 Supreme Court justices. The evidence linking Pablo to the attack is debated by historians, but the intent is clear. The files on extradition were burned. The law was literally turned to ash. Pablo sits in his jungle hideout, listening to the reports. He thinks he has won. He thinks he has erased the threat. But he has done something irreversible. He has turned the entire world against him. He is no longer a criminal problem. He is a threat to national security. And the hunters are coming. The satellite image zooms in on the Colombian jungle. Red crosshairs appear. The United States sends the Delta Force. The DEA sends its best agents. The search block is formed. The net is tightening. And the man who wanted to be president is now the most hunted animal on the planet. November 27, 1989. The war changes forever. For years, the people of Colombia had told themselves a lie. They told themselves that if they weren't politicians, if they weren't judges, if they weren't police officers, they were safe. They believed the war was between them and him. But on this morning, Pablo Escobar shatters that illusion. Avianca Flight 203 takes off from Bogotá, bound for Cali. On board are 107 people, families going on vacation, businessmen, musicians. 5 minutes into the flight, a bomb detonates. The explosion rips the plane apart in mid-air, the fuel tanks ignite, the wreckage rains down on the town of Soacha like a meteor shower. No one survives. Why? Pablo believed that Cesar Gaviria, a presidential candidate who supported extradition, was on that plane. He was wrong. Gaviria wasn't on the flight. Pablo Escobar killed 107 innocent people based on a rumor. This is the psychological turning point for the nation. The Robin Hood mask doesn't just slip, it disintegrates. You cannot claim to be a man of the people when you are raining fire on their heads from the sky. In the safe house, Pablo watches the news. We don't know exactly what he felt, but we know what he did. He didn't apologize. He didn't stop. He doubled down. 1 week later, the DAS building bombing. He parks a bus loaded with 500 kilograms of dynamite outside the headquarters of the secret police in Bogotá. The explosion is so powerful, it creates a crater in the street. It shatters windows for 20 blocks. 63 people die. 600 are wounded. He is trying to bomb the government into submission. He is screaming, "Look what I can do! Look how much I can hurt you!" But he is misreading the psychology of his enemy. Terror can make people afraid, yes, but if you push too hard, fear turns into a cold, hard resolve. The government doesn't fold. The Americans don't leave. Instead, the hunt becomes personal. If you're watching right now, comment where and what time you're watching. Somewhere in the world, someone else is listening to this story too, right alongside you. We are witnessing the moment a criminal becomes a monster. A dark room. A woman is crying. She is holding a newspaper with her daughter's face on the cover. Kidnapped. By 1990, Pablo is running out of cards. The bombings haven't stopped the extradition treaty. The search block is raiding his labs. His cash flow is being strangled. So he plays his final, most desperate card. If he cannot kill the politicians, he will steal their children. He begins a campaign of high-profile kidnappings. He takes Diana Turbay, a famous journalist and the daughter of a former president. He takes Francisco Santos, the editor of El Tiempo. He holds them in cold, damp farmhouses. He forces them to write letters to the president. "Please," the letters say, "stop the extradition. Save us." It is emotional blackmail on a national scale. He is holding a gun to the head of the Colombian elite and saying, "Your children or your treaty." The psychological pressure on the president, Cesar Gaviria, is immense. Every day, the families of the hostages are on TV, weeping, begging him to negotiate. And finally, the government blinks. They realize they cannot win a war against a man who is willing to burn the whole country down. They need a way out. They need a compromise. A secret channel is opened. Lawyers meet in shadows. Priests act as messengers. The deal is struck. It is a deal that sounds like fiction. Pablo Escobar agrees to surrender. He agrees to go to prison. He agrees to stop the bombings. But the price? The Constitution of Colombia must be rewritten. Extradition must be banned. And Pablo gets to choose his own prison. He chooses a site in the mountains above his hometown of Envigado. He calls it La Catedral, the cathedral. He pays for the construction. He designs the layout. He installs a soccer field, a bar, a disco, a waterfall. He hand-picks the guards. They are not prison guards, they are his own men in uniform. On June 19, 1991, the Constituent Assembly votes to ban extradition. The same day, Pablo Escobar surrenders. He lands his helicopter on the mountain. He hands his pistol to the authorities. He walks into La Catedral. The government calls it a victory for justice. But look closer. He hasn't surrendered to the law. He's just moved his office. The prison has a telescope on the balcony, not to look at the stars, but to look down at Medellin. He has cellular phones, he has fax machines, he has trucks coming in every day, not with prison slop, but with fresh lobster, fine wine, and women. It is the ultimate mockery of the system. He is safe from the search block. He is safe from the Americans. He is safe from the Cali cartel. The government is paying to protect him. For a few months, it seems like the perfect crime. The bombings stop. The city sleeps a little easier. But inside the golden cage, the psychology of the king is deteriorating. You can take the man out of the war, but you cannot take the war out of the man. He is bored. He is used to the adrenaline of the run. He is used to the life or death decisions. Now, he has nothing to do but count his money and worry. Paranoia is a fungus. It grows best in the dark, damp containment of a prison cell, even a luxury one. He starts to hear whispers. His lieutenants on the outside, are they skimming off the top? The Cali cartel, are they taking his territory while he sits up here playing soccer? He starts to pace. He starts to make angry phone calls. He realizes that by locking himself away, he has lost his terrifying presence on the street. Out of sight, out of mind. He cannot allow that. He needs to remind them who's boss. He summons his partners, Galeano and Moncada, to the prison. "Come up," he says. "We need to talk about the accounts." They come up the mountain. They think they're visiting a friend. They don't know that they're walking into a slaughterhouse. Inside the walls of La Catedral, the sanctuary is about to be a crime scene. And this mistake, this act of hubris inside his own fortress, will shatter the peace deal and unleash a new, final hell. July 1992. Inside the cathedral, the devil is in the details. Galeano and Moncada, the loyal partners who helped build the empire, are dead. They weren't killed by the police, they were killed by the man they made rich. Pablo accused them of stealing, of hiding $20 million. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. Paranoia doesn't need proof, it only needs suspicion. Their bodies are dismembered and burned in a bonfire on the prison grounds. The act is the beginning of the end, not because of the violence. Medellin was used to violence, but because of the betrayal. By killing his own inner circle, Pablo breaks the sacred code of the underworld. He sends a message to every other trafficker, every lieutenant, every foot soldier. Loyalty will not save you. Fear spreads through the cartel like a virus. But this time, it's not fear of the police. It's fear of the boss. And when criminals are afraid of their leader, they don't obey. They conspire. The secret gets out. A witness from the prison escapes and tells the authorities what happened. The president of Colombia is humiliated. He let a mass murderer build a palace, and the murderer used it as a torture chamber. The deal is off. July 22, 1992. The president orders the military to seize the prison. They are to transfer Pablo Escobar to a real jail, a cold concrete box in Bogotá. The vice minister of justice goes up the mountain to inform Pablo. Pablo looks at him and laughs. "I am not going anywhere," he says. His guards, his men, take the vice minister hostage. The standoff begins. If you're watching right now, comment where and what time you're watching. Somewhere in the world, someone else is listening to this story too, right alongside you. We are watching the moment the most famous prisoner in the world becomes the most famous fugitive. The special forces storm the gate. Explosions rock the compound. They breach the walls, expecting a firefight. But when they kick down the door to Pablo's suite, they find nothing. The bed is warm, the coffee is unfinished, but the bird has flown. In the chaos and the fog, Pablo and his closest men kicked out a brick wall at the back of the prison, a wall he had designed specifically to be weak. They walked into the forest, disappearing into the mist like ghosts. The embarrassment for the government is total. The most watched man on earth has vanished. But as Pablo walks through the muddy jungle, wiping the rain from his face, he is not walking into freedom. He is walking into a world that has changed. The year is no longer 1989. He is not the beloved Robin Hood. He is not the untouchable king. He is a man who just killed his best friends, and the sharks smell blood. A montage of burning mansions, classic cars engulfed in flames, stables on fire. The enemies of Pablo Escobar, the Cali cartel, the paramilitaries, the disgruntled partners, the police, they all realize something crucial. Pablo is vulnerable. They form an alliance, a death squad. They call themselves Los Pepes, persecuted by Pablo Escobar. They don't play by the rules of the state. They don't want to arrest him. They want to exterminate him. They start hunting the hunter. They burn his mother's house. They kill his lawyers. They kill his gardeners, his maids, his accountants. For the first time in his life, Pablo is not the one instilling terror. He is the one feeling it. Psychologically, this breaks him. He can handle the police chasing him. That is cops and robbers. That is the game. But Los Pepes are attacking his family. They are doing to him exactly what he did to the rest of the country. In a cramped safe house, Pablo is pacing. He looks older, heavier. He is shouting into a radio. He tries to strike back. He places a car bomb in a shopping center in Bogotá. But it doesn't work like it used to. The public doesn't cower. They get angry. The human shield of the slums begins to crumble. People are tired of dying for his ego. His world shrinks. He moves every 2 days. He sleeps on mattresses on the floor. The man with $30 billion is eating takeout food and looking out the window through the blinds, terrified of a passing motorcycle. He tries to get his family out. He sends his wife, his son, and his daughter to the airport. They have tickets to Germany. He thinks that if they are safe in Europe, he can fight the war freely. But the world has closed their doors. The German government rejects them. They are sent back on the next plane. Pablo watches this on the news in his hideout. He weeps. The king realizes that his crown is a curse. He has all the money in the world, but he cannot buy a visa for his little girl. He is completely alone. His friends are dead by his own hand. His allies have turned on him. His family is trapped in a hotel, guarded by the government, bait for the wolves. The search block is using new technology, radio triangulation. They are listening to the airwaves. They are waiting for him to make one mistake, just one phone call that lasts too long. And in the silence of that safe house, Pablo Escobar stares at the telephone. He knows it is dangerous, but he misses his daughter's voice. The desire for connection is about to override the instinct for survival. It is his birthday. Pablo Escobar turns 44 years old today. In the past, this day would have been a national holiday in Medellin. There would have been orchestras, fireworks, roasted pigs, and politicians lining up to kiss his ring. Today, there is only silence. He is hiding in a middle-class row house in the Los Olivos neighborhood. It is a mundane, beige building, unremarkable. He is alone except for his bodyguard, El Limón. His wife and children are trapped in the Tequendama hotel, surrounded by police, unable to leave. Pablo sits at the table and stares at the cake. He blows out the candle. He makes a wish, but he doesn't wish for money. He doesn't wish for power. He wishes for time. He is tired. The monster is exhausted. His belly is soft from lack of exercise. His beard is thick and unkempt. His eyes are red-rimmed. He is suffering from a stomach ailment. He is taking medication. The most powerful man in the world has been reduced to a shut-in, afraid of the sunlight. A close-up of a radio transceiver. His hand hovers over it. He knows the rules. Never stay on the line for more than 3 minutes. The search block has new French and American technology. They can triangulate a signal, but they need time to lock it in. 3 minutes is the difference between life and death. But today is his birthday. And today, the silence is too loud. He picks up the radio. He calls the hotel. He wants to hear his son's voice. He wants to hear his daughter, Manuela. He starts talking. He talks about the press. He talks about the future. He tries to parent from the shadows. He says, "Be good. Listen to your mother." He looks at his watch. 2 minutes pass. He should hang up, but he doesn't. Why? Psychologists suggest that at this moment, Pablo Escobar had already accepted his fate. Subconsciously, he knew checkmate was coming. The isolation was worse than the fear. He chose the comfort of his family's voice over his own survival. The clock ticks. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, he is still talking. Inside a white van prowling the wet streets of Medellin, a screen spikes with green lines. A technician shouts, "I have him!" The signal is strong. It is coming from Los Olivos. The grid narrows. The street is identified. The house is identified. Colonel Hugo Martinez, the commander of the search block, gives the order, "Go, go now." Trucks screech around the corner. Soldiers in heavy armor spill out. They don't use sirens. They move with the deadly quiet of predators who have finally cornered the prey. Inside the house, Pablo suddenly stops talking. He hears it. A heavy thud downstairs, a door being breached, the sound of boots on the stairs. "I'll call you back," he says to his son. He puts the phone down. He grabs his pistol. Not a gold-plated showpiece, but a working Sig Sauer. He looks at Limón. "Let's go." There is no escape plan. There is no tunnel. There is no helicopter. There is only the roof. He runs to the back window. He climbs out onto the orange tiles. It is raining. The tiles are slippery. He is heavy. He moves clumsily. Below him, a shout rings out from the alleyway. "There he is, on the roof!" Gunshots erupt from all sides, tiles shattering. Pablo fires back blindly. It is a futile gesture. He is one man against an entire army. The search block, the DEA, the ghost of Los Pepes, they are all there in spirit, pulling the trigger. He runs toward the edge of the roof. He is barefoot. Think about that image. The man who owned 800 houses, who buried billions in the ground, is running for his life without shoes. A bullet hits his leg. He stumbles. A bullet hits his torso. And then the fatal shot behind the ear. The king falls. He doesn't fall like a movie villain. There is no slow motion. There is no final speech. He crumples into a heap of meat and cloth on the dirty tiles. The gun slides from his hand. The rain washes over him. Silence. The soldiers slowly climb onto the roof. They approach the body cautiously. They turn him over. His eyes are open, staring at nothing. "Viva Colombia!" a soldier shouts. "Pablo Escobar is dead!" The radio crackles. The news spreads instantly. In the bunker, Colonel Martinez hugs his son. In the hotel, Juan Pablo hears the news and smashes a glass against the wall. But on the roof, a gruesome scene unfolds. The soldiers, the men who have hunted him for years, who have lost their friends to his bombs, they smile, they grab his arms, they lift his head, they pose for photos. It is a trophy kill. It is medieval. The most feared man in the Western Hemisphere is now just a prop. If you're still listening, you are witnessing the end of an era, but not the end of the story. Subscribe to see what happens when the dust settles. You might expect the city to rejoice, and many do. The victims, the families of the police, the politicians, they breathe a sigh of relief. But in the slums, in the barrios Pablo built, it is a funeral of mass hysteria. 25,000 people flood the streets. They attack the hearse. They break the windows just to touch his coffin. They are weeping. They are screaming, "Viva Pablo!" To the world, a terrorist is dead. To them, a father is dead. This is the complexity of the human heart. You can be a monster and a savior at the same time. It depends on who you are feeding. But while the crowd mourns, the vultures are circling. Visual: Juan Pablo, the teenage son, sitting in a hotel room. He looks terrified. The king is dead. The protection is gone. The enemies, the Cali cartel, the paramilitaries, they do not settle with Pablo's death. They want the money, and they want to make sure the prince never takes the throne. They summon the family. They sit the widow and the son down. They present a ledger, a list of the costs of the war. "Your father cost us millions," they say. "Now you pay." They strip the family of everything: the properties, the art, the hidden cash, the helicopters. They leave them with nothing but their lives. And they give Juan Pablo a choice: leave Colombia and never come back, or die. The son of the billionaire leaves the country as a refugee. He changes his name. He hides his identity. He becomes a ghost, haunted by a legacy he never asked for. A final montage: the grave of Pablo Escobar today. Tourists taking selfies, the face on the t-shirts. So what was it all for? $30 billion, thousands of lives, a country torn apart. For what? Pablo Escobar spent his life trying to force the world to respect him. He wanted to be president. He wanted to be a legend. In the end, he got his wish. He is a legend, but he is a legend of caution. He proved that you can have all the money in the world and still die like a rat in a trap. He proved that you can build a kingdom on fear, but you can never live in it. The rain stops in Medellin. The sun comes out. The city moves on. New buildings rise. New businesses open. The city of eternal spring blooms again. But the scar remains. Deep in the history of Colombia and deep in the psychology of the world, the shadow of the king lingers. If you're still listening, you are witnessing the end of an era, but not the end of the story. Subscribe to see what happens when the dust settles. You might expect the city to rejoice, and many do. The victims, the families of the police, the politicians, they breathe a sigh of relief. But in the slums, in the barrios Pablo built, it is a funeral of mass hysteria. 25,000 people flood the streets. They attack the hearse. They break the windows just to touch his coffin. They are weeping. They are screaming, "Viva Pablo!" To the world, a terrorist is dead. To them, a father is dead. This is the complexity of the human heart. You can be a monster and a savior at the same time. It depends on who you are feeding. But while the crowd mourns, the vultures are circling. Visual: Juan Pablo, the teenage son, sitting in a hotel room. He looks terrified. The king is dead. The protection is gone. The enemies, the Cali cartel, The paramilitaries, they do not settle with Pablo's death. They want the money, and they want to make sure the prince never takes the throne. They summon the family. They sit the widow and the son down. They present a ledger, a list of the costs of the war. Your father cost us millions, they say. Now you pay. They strip the family of everything, the properties, the art, the hidden cash, the helicopters. They leave them with nothing but their lives. And they give Juan Pablo a choice: leave Colombia and never come back, or die. The son of the billionaire leaves the country as a refugee. He changes his name. He hides his identity. He becomes a ghost, haunted by a legacy he never asked for. A final montage: the grave of Pablo Escobar today, tourists taking selfies, the face on the t-shirts. So what was it all for? $30 billion, thousands of lives, a country torn apart. For what? Pablo Escobar spent his life trying to force the world to respect him. He wanted to be president. He wanted to be a legend. In the end, he got his wish. He is a legend, but he is a legend of caution. He proved that you can have all the money in the world and still die like a rat in a trap. He proved that you can build a kingdom on fear, but you can never live in it. The rain stops in Medellin. The sun comes out. The city moves on. New buildings rise. New businesses open. The city of eternal spring blooms again. But the scar remains, deep in the history of Colombia and deep in the psychology of the world. The shadow of the king lingers. June 1995. The fall of Cali. The chess player, Gilberto, is captured. He isn't found in a jungle bunker with a machine gun. He is found cowering in a hollowed-out wall in a luxury penthouse, smelling of fear. The facade of the businessman crumbles. When the handcuffs go on, he is just another trafficker. The lesson here is profound. You can wear a suit, you can speak softly, you can buy the president, but if you build your house on a foundation of poison, the house will fall. Two different men, two different strategies. One chose terror, one chose corruption. Both ended up destroyed. The drug war is a machine that eats its captains. But as the titans fell, something strange happened to the drug trade. It didn't stop, it shattered. When Medellin fell, and then Cali fell, the era of the mega cartels ended. But the era of the baby cartels began. The Norte del Valle cartel, the paramilitary groups, the Bacrim, criminal bands. These groups learned from history. Don't be famous, don't be a celebrity, don't be on the Forbes list. They became the invisibles. Traffickers who looked like dentists, accountants, and mid-level bureaucrats. They lived in modest houses. They drove Toyotas. They didn't have zoos. This makes the psychological toll on society even worse. In the days of Pablo, you knew who the enemy was. He was on the news. Now the enemy is your neighbor. The enemy is the quiet man at the bakery. The paranoia is no longer about a bomb going off. It is about the rot in the soul of the city. Anyone could be involved. The trade became a pure supply chain issue. Submarines, sub-submersibles built in the jungle for $1 million, used once and scuttled at sea. Liquid cocaine mixed into clothing, into fertilizer, into plastic. The creativity of greed is boundless. And this brings us to the final tragic realization of the post-Escobar world. We spent billions of dollars. We sacrificed thousands of police officers. We turned Colombia into a graveyard to kill the king. And the price of cocaine on the streets of New York didn't go up by a single cent. The market didn't care about Pablo. It didn't care about the Rodriguez brothers. The market only cares about the demand. The king is dead. The cartels are shattered. The war is over. But the ghost of Pablo left something behind, something that keeps the fever alive in the minds of the desperate and the greedy. The treasure. This is not a pirate story. This is not a movie script. This is a reality that haunts the Colombian countryside to this day. During the height of his power, Pablo Escobar was making so much money that the banking system couldn't hold it. He couldn't launder it fast enough. So he did what people have done for thousands of years. He buried it. He packed millions of dollars, shrink-wrapped in plastic, stuffed into blue industrial water barrels, and he put them in the ground. He hid them in the walls of his safe houses. He buried them under the floors of his haciendas. He sank them in swamps. They call them caletas. He drew maps. He memorized coordinates. But here is the catch. The men who dug the holes, he killed them. To keep the secret, he silenced the witnesses. And when Pablo died on that rooftop, the maps died with him. Estimates suggest there could be anywhere from $500 million to $2 billion still out there, rotting in the earth. This has created a new kind of sickness in the region, huequería, treasure hunting. Imagine the psychology of a poor farmer. You earn $5 a day, you struggle to feed your children, and you know that somewhere beneath your feet there might be a blue barrel that contains $10 million. It drives men mad. They buy metal detectors instead of food. They dig up their own floorboards. They trespass on dangerous land controlled by gangs. And sometimes they find it. But this is where the story turns into a horror movie. The money of Pablo Escobar is cursed. There is a famous story of a farmer who found a caleta near the coast, millions of dollars. For a moment, he thought he was the luckiest man alive. But then the fear set in. How do you spend $1 million in rotting bills in a small village without anyone noticing? You can't. He tried to wash the money. He tried to dry it in the sun. Neighbors saw him. Rumors started. Within a week, the gangs arrived. They didn't ask nicely. They tortured him. They took the money. They killed his family. The treasure didn't bring him freedom. It brought him a death sentence. This happens over and over again. Construction workers renovating old mansions in Medellin find gold bars inside the concrete columns. Do they report it? No, they fight over it. They kill each other over the split. Or they try to sell it and get caught by the invisibles who still claim ownership of Pablo's legacy. The money is radioactive. It destroys anyone who touches it. If you're listening right now, be honest with yourself. If you found that blue barrel, would you tell the police or would you try to keep it? Comment "keep" or "report" below. But remember, the gangs are watching. There is a profound irony in the image of this rotting money. The paper itself, the object that men died for, that judges were murdered for, that a country was torn apart for, is worthless. Nature is reclaiming it. The humidity turns the paper to mush. The rats eat the faces of Benjamin Franklin. The worms burrow through the stacks. It is a metaphor for the entire Escobar empire. It was built on death, and in the end, it returns to the dirt. In 2016, Pablo's nephew found a Caleta inside an apartment wall. $18 million. He said the smell was unbearable, the smell of death and rot. The money was so damaged it couldn't be used. A typewriter was found with it, and a roll of film. The past staring him in the face. Useless. The trees looked for the money. The DEA looked for it. The Cali cartel looked for it. But the jungle is vast, and the jungle keeps its secrets. There are likely hundreds of millions of dollars still out there, sitting in the silence of the earth, waiting for the next victim to find them. But the most dangerous legacy Pablo left behind wasn't the money in the ground. It was the culture he planted in the minds of the people. While the real money rots, the idea of the money shines brighter than ever. We have turned the villain into a pop culture icon. We wear his face on t-shirts. We quote his lines, plata or plomo. We treat it like a movie catchphrase. We forget that for thousands of people, those words were the last thing they ever heard before they were shot in the head. We are attracted to the power. We are seduced by the idea of a man who bows to no one, but we forget the cost. We forget the fear in the eyes of the captain at the police station. We forget the sobbing of the mothers in the slums. We forget the teenage boys dying on motorcycles for a promise that was never kept. As we approach the end of this journey, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. Why are we so fascinated by monsters? Is it because we want to be them, or is it because we are afraid that, given the right circumstances, we could be them? History is often written by the victors or by the villains, but the true story of war is written in the empty chairs at the dinner table. We have spent hours talking about the king, the money, the bombs, and the politics, but we cannot end this story without looking into the eyes of the people who paid the bill, the mothers of Medellin. They are the silent chorus of this tragedy. They are the ones who washed the blood off the sidewalks. They are the ones who marched to the cemeteries, not with guns, but with flowers. In the 1990s, when the city was the murder capital of the world, these women did something extraordinary. They refused to let hate win. There is a story of a group of mothers in the comunas who, tired of seeing their sons killed by invisible borders and gang warfare, walked into the middle of a firefight. They carried white handkerchiefs. They stood between the gunmen. They didn't scream. They didn't fight. They just stood there. They forced the boys they had changed diapers for, to look at them, and the shooting stopped. This is the real power. It is not the power of a bomb that destroys. It is the power of a spirit that refuses to break. Medellin today is not defined by Pablo Escobar. It is defined by these women. If you visit Medellin now, you will see a miracle. The city has transformed. It has won awards for innovation. Where hitmen used to train, there are now digital libraries. Where the cartel used to recruit starving children, there are now music schools. The government and the people made a choice. They invested in the poorest areas. They built bridges, literally and metaphorically, to connect the forgotten to the center. They proved that the antidote to terror is not more police. It is opportunity. It is dignity. The shadow of the king is receding. The light of the city is returning. And what of the bloodline? Biology suggests that violence is genetic, that the son of the wolf becomes a wolf. But Juan Pablo Escobar broke the cycle. In 2009, he did the unthinkable. He reached out to the sons of the men his father ordered killed. He met with them. He looked them in the eye. He didn't ask for pity. He didn't make excuses. He asked for forgiveness. "I am not my father," he said. and in a moment of supreme moral courage, the victims embraced him. They cried together. In that embrace, the cartel died for good. Because a cartel runs on vengeance. It runs on the idea that you killed mine, so I must kill yours. When you choose forgiveness, you starve the beast. You break the wheel. If you've made it to the final minutes of this documentary, you are the kind of person who cares about the deeper meaning. Don't leave yet. The final conclusion is for you.
So, what is the final verdict on the life of Pablo Escobar? He was a man who confused fear with respect. He was a man who confused price with value. He spent 30 years trying to fill a hole inside himself. He poured billions of dollars, thousands of lives, and an ocean of cocaine. But the hole never filled up. Greed is a cup with a hole in the bottom. He died without shoes. He died without friends. He died without peace. We often look at these figures, the gangsters, the warlords, and we feel a strange envy for their freedom. But true freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. True freedom is the ability to sleep at night. True freedom is walking down the street without looking over your shoulder. The story of Pablo Escobar is a warning sign on the highway of history. It tells us that if you build your castle on a foundation of suffering, it will become your tomb. The rain has stopped in Medellin. The birds are singing. The nightmare is over. But the lesson remains. Every time we glorify the hustle at any cost, every time we choose the easy path over the right path, every time we ignore the suffering of the poor, we are planting the seeds for the next Pablo. Let us learn from the ruins. Let us choose life. Thank you for taking this journey with us. This was not just a story about a drug lord. It was a story about the human condition. If this documentary added value to your life, please subscribe. It helps us tell more stories that matter. And finally, I want to hear your voice. In the comments below, write one word that describes how this story made you feel. Just one word. Sadness, anger, hope, fear.